everyone, this is Mendy with My Insurance Claim Expert, proudly brought to you by Panther Public Adjusting. And today, I'm going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how we took our insurance claim from $21,000 to policy limits of $410,000. See, our insured is a business owner in Pensacola with a car dealership. After Hurricane Sally came through Pensacola, it caused severe damage to his building. He thought he was doing the right thing. He immediately called his insurance company. They sent out an adjuster, and the adjuster wrote his estimate, and they issued a payment of $21,786. The insured was smart enough to realize that his damages were significantly in excess of this, although he didn't know how much. He thought maybe they shorted him $100,000, $150,000. But he called us up. He asked us to come take a look at it. We did a thorough inspection, and here's what we discovered. We discovered that the roof was damaged. We discovered that the siding was damaged. We discovered that the insulation that surrounded the entire envelope of the building was damaged. Ceiling tiles throughout had water damage. There was mold growing. The carpets were damaged. Seriously, this was a pretty severe claim. Here's what else we discovered. We looked over the insurance adjuster's report, and this insurance adjuster, who I happen to know, and I know he is an experienced adjuster who's been doing this for a long time and should have known better, here's how he wrote his estimate. He did not sketch out the measurements of each room. He just didn't even measure anything. He wrote over there for the interior of the building, 200 square feet of ceiling tiles, for example. How are we supposed to even know which 200 square feet of this 8,000 square foot building he was referring to? It was not a professionally written estimate. It was an estimate written in a hurry. Now, I understand what was going through that adjuster's mind. It's a week after the hurricane. He knows that if he can do 10 estimates a day, he's going to make a lot of money. Unfortunately, to do 10 estimates a day, you're cutting corners and not writing accurate estimates. So we documented everything, and this included taking full photos. This included climbing the roofs. This included doing 3D imaging. Okay, we spent hours on that property, and afterwards we spent many hours writing our thorough estimate, which exceeded by far the policy limits of $410,000. We let the carrier know we were representing the insured. We sent them a copy of the estimate, and then we followed up with a call to the insurance company and said, hey guys, look, we have some serious differences here, and I believe that if you guys spend some time with me on the property, you're going to realize that my estimate is the accurate estimate here. And we're going to believe that you guys just made a mistake over here and that you'll realize the error of your way and pay this claim properly. And they said, not a problem, Mendy. We're going to send out some contractors we work with who will give their expert opinion. They'll meet with you over there. Went there, walked the property, spent a couple of hours with their contractors. Although on a side note, funny enough, one of their contractors really didn't want to get on the roof because years ago he fell through a 2-story roof, so he wasn't very excited about that. But anyways, we spent hours there. 2 days later, I get a phone call from them. And just a little bit of understanding of the construction of this building. And again, understanding the construction of the buildings is very important to properly handle your claim. So this was a steel building. What does that mean? There's steel framing that's for this building. And on top of the steel framing, there was a insulation, PVC wrapped insulation on top of it, between the framing system and the shell of the building. Steel walls, steel roof, etc. Happens to be one wall of the building. In order to make it aesthetically nicer facing the street, they put up a brick wall in front of the steel panels. Now, if this insulation is damaged, the insulation is installed before the envelope of the building is installed, meaning it's sandwiched between the steel poles and the steel panels. This insulation was severely damaged. It was hanging in parts, just hanging down, soaking wet, mold, etc. And so the only way to restore to this building to pre-loss condition, forget about all the other damages. The only way to address just the insulation would be to remove the entire frame of the building. That means all exterior walls and all the roof panels, and remove the insulation and reinstall it. Of course, technically, if you don't care to go back to the way it was before, there's other methods of insulation that can be used. But the insulation that this had pre-loss and the policy owes pre-loss condition would require essentially a total loss of this building. So I get a phone call from the contractor 2 days later. He says, well, Mendy, we're looking over this claim as we work on doing our estimate, and I'm just curious, would the insured be interested in going back with spray-on insulation instead? Okay, this is a different type of insulation that would be able to be installed post-loss, meaning they can remove all the insulation and they would be able to spray on insulation instead of basically replacing the entire building. As a side note, spray-on insulation is not a recommended practice. What happens is when there is a leak, you're not going to know there's a leak for many months. In the meantime, the water is going to get trapped inside that spray-on insulation, and it can corrode the steel, or if this is a different type of construction, can cause the wood to rot, etc. So as a side note, avoid spray-on insulation in your house. That being said, my response to the contractor was very simple. I said, hey, I would love, what a great idea. I love the idea except for one simple fact. The insured wants that the insurance carrier should pay what he is owed to restore him to pre-loss condition. And his words to me from the contractor was, well, in that case, Mendy, I don't think there's a need to write an estimate. We're going to let the insurance carrier know that they should pay policy limits on that policy. And sure enough, just a few weeks later, we got these insured a check for $410,000. Just think about that difference between a properly handled claim and the adjuster's initial report, which was not properly handled. And that's the value a good public adjuster is going to bring you. To answer those people out there and say, but Mendy, I'm going to have to pay a public adjuster a percentage of my claim. Well, what do you think, guys? Tell me in the comments below. Do you think it was worth it for this insured to pay us tens of thousands of dollars? Because 10% of $410,000 is quite a bit of money. Is it worth it for him to pay that in order to get another $350,000 in his pocket to do his proper repairs, etc.? Let us know in the comments. That's the value of a good public adjuster. And just reflect upon that, by the way. If this building suffered no other damage, but that water came in and soaked the insulation, it still would have been a total loss where the insurance company has to pay the policy limits. Hope this information has been helpful. As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, and follow us so that you will see our weekly updates. Have a great day, guys.